This is Steve Macaulay with Academic IELTS, and here we're going to have a look at how you might improve your score on part 1. Now, part 1 is obviously very important because it sets the tone. You want to start off well, so as you begin to feel comfortable and you begin to feel that you're delivering what you want to deliver. Okay, part 1 will last for about 4 to 5 minutes, and you should obviously try to speak in a relaxed and friendly manner. And this, it helps if you can learn to develop some of the intonation that is used in English. You don't want to deliver a monotonous answer because you are concentrating too much on the words, if you get my idea. You need to sound natural. So that means you need to practice. Okay, use simple language, nice and accurate, and continue to speak. That's the most important thing in the whole speaking module, is that you speak without hesitation. Slow down, because most people tend to speak quickly when they're nervous. So you should record yourself and hear yourself when you play back and ask yourself if you could slow down. Okay, it's about being interesting to some extent. You know, you should try to bring in try to bring in details that maybe personalize it or just expand on the point, but certainly make it interesting. And right, we probably all aware by now that it's generally questions about your educational background, your family, your job, where you went to school, where you grew up. It's things like that. So you can prepare for these. It is predictable. There you go. Home study and pastimes, what you do in your free time and stuff like that. Okay, now, in my opinion, not necessarily everybody's opinion, but in my opinion, you should try to give an answer that goes for, okay, it says here 10 to 15 seconds, but there's nothing wrong with, say, 7 seconds. Well, splitting hairs here, but you know, a decent chunk of language, because your job is not only to answer the question. It's not just to prove to the examiner that you understood the question. It is to go into detail, which is the other part of the criteria in the speaking. It's to speak without hesitation and to go into some detail. They are the two main criteria that they are evaluating. So you should try to put 2 to 3 sentences together, possibly even a few more. But that's not always easy, especially when you're under pressure, and that's why practice is important. So what we're going to try and do here is give you some ideas for expanding upon the simple, obvious answer. Right, so they will ask you a question. What do you like to do in your free time, for example? Use the question to create the start of your answer. Don't just go directly into, I play football. There's nothing wrong with that, but I find that it helps people if you can take the language of the question, invert it. So you will say, for example, in my free time, I like to. Now this does a couple of things. It proves to the examiner that you heard the question properly and that you're capable of reusing the same language. And also it gives you a solid basis from which to start. Now, I'm not against just directly answering the question, but I find that it helps you because you gain a little bit of thinking time. Then you can go into the reason why you do something, and so you can use because. Very, very simple. I do this because. The reason I do this is. Then the one over in the right hand corner there, use adjectives, describe things. So for example, we'll see in a second on some of these questions, you know, if they ask you about your hometown, there isn't an awful lot that really you can say, but I live in wherever it may be. It's a small town in the northwest of the country. It has a population of, and something like that. And this just proves that you're capable of going into detail. And the thing is, with the part one, you can pretty much prepare yourself for almost certain questions. If you do enough practice for part one, you will probably cover most of the questions that you're going to get, because they run fairly standard. You can also use things like in the future I would like to, or you know, one day I intend to, or what I like most about, and this will obviously help you to go into detail. And on this one slide, you've got enough language to talk for way longer than 10 seconds. And the reason I, and because, and description, in the future I'd like to, one day I intend to, what I like most about. And you should practice this. You should practice. You need to record yourselves, and you need to practice, because you need to create more than just the memory of the words. You need to create a more solid memory, i.e. I've said this. When you think about it, the IELTS is costing you quite a lot of money, especially if you've gone and done a preparation course. It's taken up a lot of your time, a lot of effort. You've spent money on books. You know, it's a fair old investment, and you really ought to do the rehearsing and practicing. So let's go on. So for example here, tell me about your family. Okay, I live with my parents, my brother and my two sisters. My father's an engineer and my mother's a teacher. My brother is studying at university while my sisters are still at school. Now, everybody can do the I live with my mother, my father, my brother and my sister and my grandmother and my uncle, this, you know, but you're not there to give a list of family relations. You're there to go into detail. So even if you've got, I don't know, where I live presently, lots of people have very big families. You know, they might have 5 brothers and 4 sisters. Well, you can't really go into all of those individually. So just make it easy for yourself. You know, you've got 1 brother and 1 sister. Even if you haven't got a sister, have one. You know, it doesn't really make any difference. The truth is not important, but it gives you an opportunity to go into detail. Another thing I notice as well is that sometimes people don't actually know. I had a case just very recently where I asked a girl about her family, and she wanted to then tell me that her father was, and she wanted to say an antique dealer, but the only thing she could actually remember was antique. She didn't know that the word dealer gives the antique man his profession, and as a result she stumbled over it and then lost a little bit of confidence, because she realized, oh no, I've gone and hesitated, and this then creates, or can create, the spiral down of, oh no, I'm making a mess of this. So as I said to the class then, look, you know, you all know the word lawyer. or you can think of something else, engineer. It doesn't matter what your father does for a job. It doesn't matter what your mother does for a job. Cook something up that's easy for you to remember and easy for you to say. So there you are. Your father's a lawyer, your mother's a teacher, and your sister's at university, and your brother's still at school. And this means that you've gone into quite a nice amount of detail in a very short space of time, and it's quite conversational, and to some extent you might say it's mildly interesting.